Well, today I've got two sprint cars here, and the one here on my left is a 1957 sprint car. It was built by a guy in Indianapolis named Billy Earl. It was sent here to Tampa in '61 for a guy named Frank Riddle, who was the premier sprint car driver in this area for years and years. He's in a couple Hall of Fames. Frank drove this car, and it ran from here in the Tampa area from '61 to '84, and then it just outlived its usefulness. The reason it was parked, it broke a torque tube in it. The torque tube stuck into the track. The back end of the car came up, and it fractured the guy's back. They figured that was long enough to be driving this thing because the technology on it is so old. It's what they call a sewer pipe frame, and if you can get closer, you can see it's like a 2-inch pipe that they run from the front to the back, and that's all that supports it, with a bridge down here, which is a 1/2-inch pipe. There's nothing else that supports the car. This car has got the 37 Ford shocks on it with conventional shocks on the back. It's got a quick change rear end, and this is we used to call them, when I was a kid, a 301. It's a 283 with a 327 crank in it. Now they call them 302s, engine in it. And the car is quite fast. I mean, it's a really neat car. I've raced it in Indianapolis and all over Florida, and it's very dependable, easy to drive, and a very nice car. The other thing that is unusual about the suspension on this car, it's got a monoleaf spring, like an old Model A on the front, but then when you go to the back for the suspension in the back, it's got parallel torsion bars. This is the torsion bar that comes out and keeps the car in balance. It lets one side go up, one side go down, and it's adjusted up here. It's like a Mopar. It's got a rod that runs all the way to the back. The rod twists, and a steel bar twist. Very simple car. This is the way a sprint car should look. This car raced at old Tampa Fairgrounds in downtown Tampa. It raced at Phillips Field, which was a track across from the old fairgrounds. And it raced at Golden Gate. It raced all over. This car has more history probably than any car in the Tampa Bay area. I bought it from a fellow named Willard Smith, who is known all over Tampa for his racing. And this is the engine, and it ran injection on it. I have the injection port, but I just got tired of messing with it, put a carburetor on it. It works great, no problems at all. Very simple. You can see it's a uncaged sprint, and when we got our driver's license, I got my driver's license to drive this after running 3 races. They gave me a set of balls that hang on the back of the truck, and the reason for that, it takes balls to ride an uncaged sprint. When I drove it at Indianapolis, you got a mile straightaway, and quarter-mile turns. Well, you were out in the open, you got a lot of air on you, and the balls kind of went away. You didn't run it as fast as it run. So it's quite a car. I really like it. It's my most favorite sprint car because it's what a sprint car is supposed to look like in my generation. So that's my sprint car. This is my wife's sprint car. This is a mid-'70s car. I think I've been told that. I'm not sure. It was built by a guy named Ray Osborne, who builds hot rods in New York now. Lee built a lot of old sprint cars in the 70s, 80s, and I believe up into the 90s, but I'm not positive. The car is excellent handling. Everybody thinks it's an Indy Roadster because the way it looks when you see it on the track. The nose is longer than my sprint car. The tail is a little bit longer, so it makes the car look longer, and it is lower because they were lowering the cars down when they did this. My wife drives this one, and she's driven it at Indianapolis when we carried the sprint car, the red one, the number 80, to Indianapolis the first year. She outran me with this car. And the car, excellent handling, gets a lot of looks. And the big deal about this car, come around here, Neil, and I'll show you. This isn't the big deal, but my wife, they call her the blonde Comet. And she's still racing, and we still have a good time with it. But this motor in this thing, originally, it had a 350 in it, and we decided we wanted something different, so we put an Alfa Romeo engine in it. And the car handles excellent. It will run with the V8s, not long straightaways, but in quarter mile, 3/8 mile circle tracks. It runs just as good as a V8 because there's no weight. It's a 4-cylinder Alfa, and when I put it in, I was very reluctant about putting this motor in because I didn't know how well they would stay together. Well, come to find out, they're excellent engines. They don't break, they run, they crank up. She's never had a race where the engine caused a problem. We put, instead of the fuel injection the Alfa had, which the fuel injection was junk in my opinion, we put Weber carburetors on it. Once we put the Webers on it, the car was outstanding, runs great. The second year we ran at Indy, she had to, running this car, we had to put transmissions and starters in them. So we put an Alfa transmission in the car, a 5-speed, and she can drive this on the street now because it's got a 5-speed transmission and easy to drive. Another thing that we did was here, it's got a magneto, and we took a Chevy V8 magneto and only used half of it for the 4-cylinder because an Alfa's a 4-cylinder. And when you do that, you just can't cut the wires off and leave them because the mag will turn, it will fire inside the distributor cap, and it will break the distributor cap. The distributor caps are up around $100 now, so you break one every race. That's not a good deal, and it runs like crap. So what you do is take the other 4 plug wires and run them down here, and you put we built an aluminum block, run the spark plugs into the aluminum block. It makes it, the mag think that it's running a V8, and it fires into this aluminum block, and you never have any problems with it again. So excellent running car, driving car. She's a very competitive person, my wife, and we have a good time racing these cars. We race them today, we'll probably race them in another month or so. So that's the two of the cars that we race. And I will show you the rest in a later video.